Yesterday, in the sterile stillness of our office, Ava, the woman I had built my life around, delivered a confession. So devastating it split my world in two. Her voice was unnervingly calm, too composed as she said it. I'm going on a date. A date with a colleague. I'm Nathan, 32. I'd been married to Ava, 33, for almost 7 years. Ours was a quiet, deliberate kind of marriage. We had chosen stability over spontaneity, comfort over chaos, no children, no messy schedules, just mutual respect and the silent ease of routine. At least, that's what I believed. But recently, the air between us had shifted. Something invisible but undeniable had changed. Ava began voicing her restlessness, her discontent with the predictability of our days. She said it felt like she was sleepwalking through her life, her eyes open, but her soul numb. One day, she even floated the idea of having a child, something we had mutually shelved early in our marriage. I agreed to consider it, not because I felt ready, but because she seemed to need something to anchor her. I tried to meet her halfway, to breathe hope into her detachment. But just as quickly as the idea surfaced, she discarded it, said it was a passing whim. I chalked it up to anxiety. I didn't see the warning sign for what it really was, a prelude to something far more shattering. And then came yesterday. I'm going on a date tonight, she said, as casually as if she were noting she'd be late from work or picking up dinner. I blinked, waited for a smirk, a sarcastic chuckle. Nothing, just her eyes, steady and unsympathetic, her lips held in a flat, resolute line. She wasn't joking. What do you mean a date? I asked, my voice cracked, the words brittle and unfamiliar in my mouth. Dinner. With Eric, she replied, her tone businesslike, as though she were talking about a spreadsheet. We've been talking. We both feel stuck. This is just something new, something exciting. That word exciting gnawed at something deep. Inside me, I stared at her, numb, unable to comprehend the unraveling that was unfolding in real time. Ava, however, continued speaking with unnerving calm. She called it harmless, said they were two consenting adults just blowing off steam. When I asked why she would even call it a date, if it meant nothing, she said the word as if it somehow sanitized the act. Transparency, she claimed, as though honesty, brutal as it was, erased betrayal. Then she kissed me on the forehead, a kiss that felt more like anesthesia before surgery, and walked off to get ready. I sat frozen on the couch, muscles locked, heart a storm of grief, rage, disbelief. I watched her select a red dress, the one she reserved for our anniversaries, the one she wore for milestones and intimate dinners with me. But this time, it wasn't for me. She applied her lipstick in the mirror, smiling faintly at her reflection. Watching her come alive for another man punched a crater in my chest. I called Kevin, my closest friend. I couldn't even say the truth aloud. I told him it was a situation a friend was going through. He tried to reassure me. Maybe it wasn't what I thought. Maybe it was harmless. But I knew. She came home around 9:30, her makeup slightly smeared, her eyes bright, skin flushed. She hugged me, whispered in my ear, it was so exciting, Nathan, just what I needed. I forgot how to breathe. Then came the second blow. She and Eric were planning a weekend trip, just like that. A weekend getaway, as if this were some high school romance, not a full-blown betrayal of vows and years. My mind splintered. Ava floated around the house that evening, humming, energized, like she hadn't just driven a wedge through everything we'd built. I didn't sleep. I lay awake on the couch, heart pounding, thoughts racing like wild animals in a cage. By sunrise, something in me solidified. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a phase. This was the end. But I would not beg. I would not grovel. By Saturday afternoon, the locks had been changed, her keys useless. I packed every trace of her into black trash bags, lined them neatly in the garage. She was too caught up in choosing outfits for her romantic little escape to notice. I recorded her on my phone, her laughter, her giddy conversations about how alive she felt. I needed evidence, not for revenge, but for truth. Saturday morning, a sleek black car pulled into the driveway. Eric. She descended the front steps like a woman in a perfume commercial, red dress, heels clicking, lips curled in anticipation. She blew me a kiss, Like a performer taking a bow after a show, I didn't move. When she returned Sunday evening, reality hit her like a brick wall. Her key didn't work. She knocked, then banged, then screamed my name. I watched her through the security camera, disoriented, panicking. I opened the door. Her mascara was streaked, her face blotched with tears. "What the hell, Nathan?" she shouted, pushing against me. I stood still. "You wanted excitement," I said, my voice like stone. "Well, this is it." She broke down, said Eric, pressured. Her claim she hadn't known what she was doing. I handed her the phone, the recording, her laughter, her words, her joy. Her expression crumbled. "You did this," I said. "You set fire to everything. Now walk through the ashes on your own." I shut the door. She sobbed on the other side, but I didn't open it again. I pointed to the garage and told her to collect her things. She pleaded, begged me to reconsider, but I slammed the door in her face. She sat in the driveway for hours. Still, I didn't move. The divorce was already in motion. I didn't hesitate. No rewinding, no romantic illusions. The following weeks were like living in the aftermath of a hurricane, silent, broken, surreal. The house echoed with emptiness, but it was mine again. Ava had craved unpredictability. Now she had it. When I filed the final paperwork, I told my attorney to send the documents to her parents' address. The last fragile thread to anything stable in her life. Ava was staying with her childhood friend, Julia, though I doubted Julia understood the magnitude of the devastation Ava had caused. But Ava didn't go quietly. She unleashed a storm of texts, calls, voicemails, each one a desperate attempt to stitch together the corpse of our marriage. Even her mother called me, her voice thick with sobs, pleading with me to give Ava another chance. But I didn't feel love anymore. I felt scorched. Every message was a knife to the ribs. Every memory of her packing her bag for Eric, of brushing off my pleas, was a fresh wound. She hadn't just broken a promise, she had incinerated our life. So when she showed up uninvited, I wasn't surprised. Part of me had been waiting. It was a dull Wednesday. I was buried in work when I heard voices rising outside my office. My secretary sounded strained. Then I heard Ava shaky, desperate. "Please, just let me speak to him." I stepped into the hallway. She was clutching the divorce papers like they were some ancient curse. Her hair was a mess, her face streaked with tears. I gestured her into a side room. My voice was flat. "What do you want, Ava?" "I can't sign them," she said, barely audible. "I love you. Please, let's talk. We can fix this." But the woman who once glowed with bravado now looked like a ghost of herself. "There's nothing to fix," I said. "You made your choice. Now live with it." Tears welled in her eyes. "It was a mistake. I thought I needed something thrilling, but it turned into a nightmare. I was stupid. You're the only person I've ever really wanted." I clenched my jaw. "You thought you could waltz through hell and come back untouched." She reached for me. I stepped back. "You got your answer," I said. Then I turned and walked away. After that, the silence returned, and I was grateful. Eventually, I heard through a mutual friend that she had started therapy. Good. The first responsible step she'd taken in a long time. But I wasn't done. I needed more than her tears. I needed her to fully comprehend the magnitude of her betrayal. So I gathered every receipt, hotel booking, timestamp, and printed them. I attached a note. "This is why I can never return. This is why it's over." I mailed the package to her parents. The next morning, I got a voicemail. Her voice was frayed, small. "I got your package," she said softly. "I understand now, Nathan. I see the pain I caused. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I finally understand." I listened in silence. No pleas, no excuses, just truth. And that was enough. The divorce finalized without spectacle. No courtroom drama. Ava signed without protest. She moved in with her parents. I kept the house. Her ghost no longer lived in the walls. At first, the quiet unnerved me. Then it became something sacred. I began again. Hit the gym, took long hikes, returned to painting. Kevin, loyal as ever, walked beside me through every step of the wreckage. Ava made one last attempt, a handwritten letter, more apologies, more healing on her part. I didn't reply. She had said all that needed to be said. Our paths had split long ago. I had no duty to follow hers. One breezy Saturday, Kevin and I joined a hiking group. Among them was a woman named Emily. Her smile was easy, unforced. Her presence felt like sunlight through clean glass. We chatted. I asked her to coffee. It wasn't fireworks, it was something better, real. Emily reminded me that love didn't have to be a battlefield. Sometimes it could be quiet, honest, steady. And so life continued. Ava lived with the weight of her choices. I walked away from the ashes, lighter, wiser, and finally free.